Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Jake and I will be the host of many of the videos on this channel, which is called Unknown Shipwrecks and More. I have lots of knowledge of seafaring vessels and maritime events. Helping me out with these videos will be the podcast co-host Kevin. But before we dive into today's stories, I'm going to discuss what this channel is about real quick. So, as many of you may have already inferred from the channel name, this channel is going to explore largely unknown shipwrecks, ways of life for Americans on the coast, and disasters like fires and gales from around the United States and beyond. So with that out of the way, let's introduce today's topics. The first one up on our list is the shipwreck of the schooner Dora. My friend Kevin will tell her story, while I will talk about the sinking of the passenger ship SS Monroe next. Links to his Twitch and the podcast he co-hosts, The Pond Pod, will be in the description. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video.
Hello everyone, my name is Kevin. Today I will be telling you about the Dora. The Dora was a schooner constructed sometime in the mid to late 1800s. She was one of the new types of schooners coming out around that time. These new types of schooners integrated steam and wind power, with the wind option being there in case the ship's steam engines broke down. She also sported an iron hull instead of wood for extra rigidity. Since there are no known pictures of the ship, here's an example of what she may have looked like. The Dora was 260 feet in length. She had a beam of 34 feet and a depth of 24.4 feet. Before we get too much further into the video, let me explain what depth and beam are on a ship for those of you who are unfamiliar with these terms. The beam is the width of the boat, measured at its widest point. The depth of a ship is measured at the middle of the length, from the top of the keel, bottommost longitudinal structure on a ship, to the top of the deck beam at the side of the uppermost continuous deck. Now, with that little explanation out of the way, let's talk about how this schooner met her fate. The Dora was on her way to an unknown destination, somewhere in a northeastern state, when, on October 5th, 1889, she ran aground here, on the eastern side of the Dawson Shoals, the entrance of the Wachapreague Inlet between Cedar and Paramore Island. She wrecked in 18 feet of water and was located roughly 2.5 miles east-southeast from the Wachapreague Life-Saving Station. It is unknown what happened to the crew, as life-saving reports do not mention them. Her decks were covered in only 1 foot of water. Soon, in the years following the wreck, she became quite the navigational hazard for fishermen coming in and out of the busy coastal city of Wachapreague, Virginia. In 1896, 7 years after the wreck, a small schooner by the name of the R.F. Hastings was coming back to Wachapreague for the night. She was laden with a cargo of oysters. Around 6 or 7 in the evening, the schooner collided with the wreck of the Dora. The small schooner sank so fast that the crew barely had time to put on any clothes, and most of them swam out with only half of their clothing on. A couple hours later, the crew knocked on the door at the Wachapreague Life-Saving Station. The keeper of the station provided them shelter for the night and gave them breakfast in the morning. When the crew went back to the wreck of their ship, they had discovered that their cargo of oysters was a complete and total loss. After another shipwreck, it was finally decided that something had to be done. On August 26, 1903, the Army Corps of Engineers and the salvage company Van Sant and Baum arrived to remove the ship from the inlet entrance. At the time of the removal, the total cost would have been roughly $7,249. In today's time, that would be about $233,711. The work was completed on September 8, 1903. This concludes the portion of the video that has been dedicated to the Dora. Jake will now tell you about the SS Monroe.
Thank you, Kevin. Excellent job. Now it's time to talk about the tragedy of the SS Monroe. The luxurious liner was launched at the Newport News shipyards in Virginia on the 18th of October in 1902. The ship measured 336 feet overall and had a 46-foot beam. She sported a single-hull construction and was fitted with a sturdy hurricane deck. She was also equipped with a 4-bladed steel screw. The interior of the ship was soon fitted out, and the ship was ready to get underway. An article in the 1903 edition of Marine Engineering boasts of her luxury and talks about her technical specs. If you're interested in learning more about her, then that is definitely worth a look. So, getting back on track, she was owned by the Old Dominion line and was part of her overnight line that connected Norfolk, Virginia with New York's Pier 26. The ship sailed and did her job normally for roughly 11 years until the night of January 30th, 1914. That night, the Monroe was steaming on her usual course through a dense fog about 20 miles out from the Assateague life-saving station. On her way to New York, when around 2 a.m. the passengers were thrown from their bunks after feeling a massive jolt and hearing the loud sounds of steel grinding and crumpling. But what could have created such a ruckus? As the crew and passengers soon found out, it was another ship called the SS Nantucket. The Nantucket was a cargo ship, heavily laden with cargo, bound for Norfolk that night. The Nantucket now had her bow smashed in, and had developed a leak which was soon patched by the crew after she backed away into the fog. But the situation on the Monroe was nowhere near as good. The ship had a massive gash in her starboard side, and she'd already developed a heavy list. After the collision, complete and total chaos erupted in the passenger compartments. Everyone aboard knew quickly that the Monroe was going down. The passengers put on their life vests and headed topside. Once there, they were guided to lifeboats by the calm officers and crew. Unfortunately, due to the ship's list, only 3 were able to be launched, so those that could be launched were lowered into the cold, icy waters of the Atlantic Ocean. But back on the ship, the passengers and crew with their life preservers stood on the undamaged side of the ship as she rolled over. As what remained of the ship went under, the desperate shrieks, screams, and cries of the people who couldn't make it onto the top deck that had once filled the air soon died out. After only 12 minutes, the Monroe went under and dove to the bottom of the unforgiving Atlantic, taking with her some of her passengers and crew. Some heroic members of the crew saved women who didn't have life vests by giving them their own. 1 hour after the sinking, the cold waters started to take their toll on passengers and crew still floating in the water. About this time, the ship which had collided with the Monroe earlier, the Nantucket, started picking people up out of the water. But once everyone got on board, they noticed that not many of the people who jumped into the water still remained. While floating in the water, those people who didn't make it succumbed to the effects of hypothermia due to being in the cold waters for so long. In the end, 41 total people died in the incident, all of which were on board the Monroe. After docking back at Norfolk, an investigation was immediately launched into the collision. After many hearings and eyewitness accounts, the court found out who was responsible. Before the incident, both ships were communicating with each other using their horns. After some communication, the Nantucket failed to respond. The captain of the Nantucket also reported seeing the Monroe almost 1 mile away, but did nothing to avoid her. The captain was put solely at fault for the incident and had to spend the rest of his life knowing that he could have avoided the collision entirely. Today the wreck lies in approximately 85 to 90 feet of water, and is a popular spot for recreational divers. Many divers enjoy fishing here, and they have set up many traps around it to catch lobsters. And that's all for today. Thank you all for watching the video, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to like and subscribe to get more videos like this one. I'd also like to give a big thank you to my good friend Kevin for helping me make this video and talking about the Amy Dora. Once again, links for his stuff are in the description. Also, one last thing. Our sources for this video are also in the description if you would like to learn more. See you guys in the next video.